Okay, stay calm. Stay calm. Beautiful. I'm so glad I didn't miss it. The sun rose with a cruel brilliance, lancing through the reinforced glass and casting the shadow of the iron scrollwork across the floor like the stripes of a cage. Willow hadn't slept. She had vibrated between cold terror and a numb, waking trance beneath the bed. The heavy thud of the bolt retracting made her heart lurch. The door swung open, and the scent of fresh fruit and expensive butter flooded the room. A domestic, cheerful smell that felt like a slap in the face. Eden stepped inside, looking refreshed in a charcoal sweater, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and crisp gray slacks. He carried the silver tray with the grace of a man who had never known a day of labor in his life. He didn't look for her. He knew exactly where she was. His eyes, the same glacier blue as the morning sky outside, fixed briefly on the shadow beneath the bed before he moved with unhurried precision to open the double doors. The ocean breeze swept in, carrying salt and a distant cry of gulls as he set the silver tray down on a small table, the china cups clinking with a delicate, domestic sound that felt obscene in her prison. "Good morning, Willow," he said, his voice bright and terrifyingly normal. "I thought you might like some protein. I remember you saying you'd like to try poached eggs someday." Only she never said it to him, but to his father as he slept. They're much healthier than, well, what you're used to. When she didn't answer, he sighed softly, the sound of a disappointed parent. He walked over to the bed and knelt on the plush rug, his face coming level with the gap where she was hidden. "Come out, darling. The floor is no place for you. You'll catch a chill, and then I'll have to play the nurse, won't I?" He reached out a hand, palm up, waiting. Willow scrambled out from the other side of the bed, her hair a wild, tangled nest, her eyes bloodshot and wide. She backed into the corner, as far from the cameras and him as possible. "Let me go, Mr. Eden. Please. I won't tell anyone. I'll move. I'll leave the state. Just let me out of here." Eden stood up, smoothing his trousers. He ignored her pleas entirely. Instead, he walked over to the tray and began to spread marmalade on a piece of toast. "I watched you last night," he said casually. "You have a very expressive way of moving when you're distressed. It's quite beautiful, in a tragic sort of way. But you shouldn't have hit the door so hard. You've bruised and bled your knuckles." He turned, holding the toast, and began to walk towards her. "You think of this as a prison because you're still looking back at that gutter you lived in. You're mourning a man who would have eventually killed you over a cold breakfast. I saved you, Willow. I am the only one who truly saw the value in your life." He stopped, just out of her reach, his eyes scanning the bruises on her neck, the ones he had rescued her from, before settling on her lips. "Eat," he commanded softly. It wasn't an invitation. "If you don't maintain your health, you'll lose that glow, and I've worked far too hard to secure you to let you wither away." He held the toast out to her, his gaze locked onto hers. He was waiting for her to accept the first piece of her new life, the bread of her captivity in his communion, his sacrament of possession. She studied his eyes, clear as polished glass, revealing nothing or reflecting everything. Behind that careful composure, something watched her with the unblinking focus of a predator who had finally cornered its prey after a long, calculated hunt. She knew that if she fought him, he would find a way to make the cage even smaller. She remembered her nursing training, how to deal with volatile, delusional, possibly grieving, possibly a murderer, patients. You don't agitate them. You don't break the glass of their reality until you have a way out of the room. Her hand shook as she reached out, her fingers brushing his as she took the toast. He didn't pull away immediately. He let his thumb linger against her skin, a slow caress that made her stomach churn. "Good girl," he whispered. Willow took a small, mechanical bite. The sweet taste overwhelmed her senses in the tense moment. She lowered her eyes, adopting the submissive posture she knew he wanted to see. "Thank you, Eden." The sound of her using his name, without the mister, made his entire posture relax. He looked almost drunk on the sound of it. He stepped closer, his hand coming up to tuck a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "I knew you were special," he murmured. "Most women would have spent the morning screaming until their lungs bled. But you have a quiet strength. You understand the chaos of the world is over for you now. There's a peace in that, isn't there?" Willow managed a small, shaky nod, keeping her gaze fixed on his chest. It's a lot to take in. I just need time to adjust." "You have all the time in the world," Eden said, his voice brimming with a dark, satisfied warmth. He took her hand, his grip gentle but unyielding, and guided her towards the balcony. The breakfast tray waited on a wrought iron table, china gleaming against the backdrop of the sheer cliff drop beyond. When the sea breeze hit her face, Willow's lungs seized with a desperate animal recognition. Open air. Freedom. Just beyond her reach. The storm that had raged during her capture. The same storm that had muffled Mark's thud as Eden dismantled him had utterly vanished. The sunrise painted the sky in watercolored washes of amber and cerulean, a beauty so indifferent to her captivity that tears prickled at her eyes. A perfect day for someone else's freedom. Eden pulled out her chair with the flourish of a maître d', his fingers lingering at her shoulder as she sat. She watched, frozen, as he lifted the teapot and poured with practiced precision, then added exactly 2 drops of honey from a crystal dipper, the way she'd mentioned once, offhandedly, during a morning shift, not to him, but to his comatose father, while adjusting IV lines, thinking herself alone. Her gaze dropped to the floor as she remembered the revelation from the night before. The cameras, the microphones, the constant surveillance, the eyes. He had always been them. "I have a few things to attend to today. Funeral arrangements for my father, legalities. But I'll be watching you, Willow. Even when I'm not in the room. I'll be with you." He gestured vaguely towards the corner where the hidden cameras sat. "If you need anything, just look into the lens and ask. I've installed speakers throughout the suite. I'll hear your every breath." He walked towards the door, paused and looked back. "Try the silk dress I left in the wardrobe. The imperial purple will go perfectly with your eyes. I'd love to see you in it when I return for dinner. I'll be watching you." The door closed, and the bolt slid home with that now familiar, sickening finality. She stared at the breakfast tray, the perfect poached egg now congealing in their own cold despair. Her hands trembled as she clutched the edge of the table, nausea rising like a tide. 5 minutes. 5 minutes of performing docility while her mind screamed. 5 minutes of his presence, his performance, his possession. And I'd stood there frozen like a rabbit before headlights. My nursing training taught me to observe, obsess, intervene. Yet here I am, still struggling to breathe properly while opportunities slip away. How many days would pass in this elegant prison? How many mornings would I wake up to his voice, his touch, his suffocating gaze stripping away another layer of my will? The teacup rattled against his saucer as a sob caught in her throat. She had to be smarter, faster. Her very survival depended on it. Next time, she swore to herself. Next time I'll find the words to reach whatever humanity might still exist beneath his madness. She didn't eat. How could she? It was all too perfect to consume. Willow's stomach twisted with hunger, but each bite would feel like surrender. She rose from the wrought iron chair, the legs scraping against the stone, and returned to the bedroom. Her eyes deliberately avoided the corners where she knew cameras lurked. She blinked back the heat behind her eyelids, refusing to give him the satisfaction of her tears. Instead, she moved with the methodical precision she'd used during night shifts at the ICU, checking each element of the room as if it were medical equipment, categorizing its potential. A performance for the watching eyes, each movement calculated to suggest curiosity rather than revulsion, interest rather than terror. The first scene in her desperate one-woman play, the willing captive considers her options. She wasn't looking for a way to pick the lock anymore. She'd already explored that dead end. No, her prison wasn't the room. It was him. And that meant her key wasn't metal. It was psychological. Willow stood before the massive hand-carved wardrobe, her fingers trembling as they brushed the cool silk of the purple dress. It was beautiful, a piece of art, but to her, it felt like a shroud. She felt the weight of the lenses in the corner of the room. The thought of undressing, of exposing the soft skin of her stomach and thighs to those cold glass eyes made her feel physically ill. Beyond the modesty, there was the tactical fear. She had a dark, mottled bruise on her hip where Mark had shoved her into the table 4 nights ago, and another on her ribcage. She didn't want Eden to see them. She didn't want him to have more reasons to protect her, or worse, more reasons to feel a twisted sense of pity that fueled his ownership. She glanced at the bathroom door, then shook her head. No. If he'd installed cameras in the bedroom, he'd certainly hidden them in the shower tiles, behind a mirror, maybe even in the drain. Nowhere was safe from the eyes. She turned towards the camera in the molding above the bed. She didn't know if he was actually there, or if he was miles away at a funeral, but she spoke anyways, her voice clear despite the tremor. Eden? I know you can hear me. She paused, swallowing hard. I want to wear the dress. For you. But I can't do it like this. I'm a person, not an animal in a zoo. If you want me to be the woman you think I am, you have to give me this much. Please. Turn them off while I change. I can't. I can't let you see me like this. Silence filled the room, thick and mocking. She waited for a minute, then 2, feeling foolish. She assumed he had already left the estate. Then, a soft crackle of static broke the quiet. A speaker hidden behind the velvet headboard hissed to life. Modesty. Eden's voice purred, sounding terrifyingly close, as if he was whispering directly into her ear. A rare virtue. Most would be preening for the lens, desperate for attention. But you want to be private. I respect that, Willow. I truly do. There was a series of faint electronic clicks from the corner of the room. The tiny red lights, the heartbeats of the cameras, flickered and went dark. You have 5 minutes, my love. The speaker breathed. The feeds are cut. Do not make me regret trusting you. The static died. The room felt suddenly unnervingly still. Willow didn't waste a second. She didn't believe for a moment that he couldn't see her somehow, but she had to gamble that the electronic kill switch was real. She moved with frantic speed. She stripped off her nurse's uniform, her skin prickling in the cool air. As she pulled the purple silk over her head, she caught a glimpse of herself in the full-length mirror. The purple was indeed perfect, making her look like a porcelain doll, but the contrast with the yellowing bruising on her ribs was hideous. She zipped the dress up, the fabric fortunately thick enough to hide the marks of her past life. There was a purple silk scarf that she wrapped around her neck. Just as she smoothed her skirt down, The red lights in the corners flickered back to life with a synchronized chirp. "Beautiful," the speakers whispered. "The imperial purple is exactly what I imagined. You look like you finally belong in this house." Willow shuddered. He had timed it perfectly. He had given her just enough freedom to make her feel like she had a say, while proving he held the master switch to her very dignity.